Oh my God.
Oh my God, are you okay?
As a mother, I have two goals. Make sure that the college money doesn't turn into bail money, and to make sure that Cameron doesn't turn out like Jarrod.
What really happened between Brandi Passante and Jarrod Schulz was far darker than viewers ever realized.
Of course he wrecks my car.
For years, Storage Wars convinced viewers that Brandi Passante and Jarrod Schulz were surviving chaos together.
Oh, you broke the radio. Seriously? Even when he's not driving, he's backing into things. This day just keeps getting more expensive.
In reality, their relationship was quietly collapsing behind the cameras. Then, in 2021, Brandi Passante confirmed the relationship was over. And what surfaced afterward completely changed how many fans viewed their story. So what led to the breakup after years together in the spotlight? Join us as we uncover the truth behind Brandi Passante and Jarrod Schulz's split that stunned Storage Wars fans. She was never just the girlfriend on the show. The version of Brandi Passante that Storage Wars presented to the world was a carefully contained one. She was the other half of the Young Guns, the name the show gave to Brandy and Jarrod Schulz, the couple who arrived in Season 1 as the scrappy, high-energy counterpoint to the established veterans of the storage auction world. She was funny, sharp, and willing to tell Jarrod exactly when he was wrong, which happened regularly and on camera. But the character the show built around her, the girlfriend, the partner, the sounding board for Jarrod's decisions, was always a smaller frame than the actual person inside it. Brandi Passante grew up moving between different parts of the American South and West before landing in California. She met Jarrod Schulz when she was around 18 years old. She was not a television personality when they got together. She was just a young woman who had found someone and was trying to build a life. That life, the real one, not the edited one, included running an actual business. She and Jarrod opened Now and Then, a thrift store in Lake Forest, California, that stocked items they purchased from storage unit auctions on the show. The store was a functioning retail operation that required real work, managing inventory, working with customers, and handling the daily logistics of a small business. When Brandy talked on the show about the value of a particular item or the smarter strategy at a given auction, she was drawing on actual business experience, not performing expertise for a camera. She also had Hashimoto's disease, a chronic autoimmune condition affecting the thyroid that causes fatigue, weight changes, and a range of other symptoms that do not respond to willpower or a positive attitude. She has been open about managing this condition throughout her adult life, and the fact that she was doing all of this, running a business, raising 2 children, managing a chronic illness, and filming a reality television show, while also managing a relationship that was not working, is the context that most coverage of the split has consistently left out. The show presented a partnership. The reality was considerably more one-sided than that, and Brandy had been carrying the heavier share of it for longer than most viewers realized. So when did the cracks in that partnership actually begin? And how long was she keeping the real picture hidden before the cameras finally stopped rolling? 12 seasons of the show. Storage Wars ran from 2010, with Brandy and Jarrod as cornerstones of its cast for 12 straight seasons. That is a long time for real life to accumulate behind the scenes, long enough for the distance between what the cameras captured and what was actually happening to grow into a gap that no amount of editing could eventually conceal. In 2014, A&E gave them a spin-off. Brandy and Jarrod, married to the job, ran for 9 episodes before the network canceled it, which, in the mathematics of reality television, is a verdict about both the public's appetite for the extended version of their relationship and about what the extended version actually looked like when it was given more room to breathe. The full domestic picture was apparently less compelling than the auction floor highlight reel. The lawsuit she was forced into in 2013 added another layer of weight to what she was already carrying. A man named Hunter Moore published a pornographic video on his website and falsely claimed it featured Brandi Passante. She sued him. The case went to jury trial. She won. The jury awarded her $37. The number was publicly mocked. A woman who had been publicly defamed with false sexual content won a civil case and received $37 in damages. She absorbed that humiliation in public, in the middle of filming a television show, with 2 children at home, and a relationship that was already not functioning the way its public presentation suggested. All of that was the background. The foreground, the thing most people associate with the beginning of the real public story, came in 2018 when something changed permanently, and nobody said so publicly for 3 years. The secret that lasted 3 years. Brandi Passante and Jarrod Schulz ended their relationship in 2018. The public did not find out until 2021. That 3-year gap sits at the center of this entire story, and understanding it requires understanding the specific position she was in when it happened. They split after completing filming on Season 12 of Storage Wars, which premiered in November 2018. The show then went on a 2-year hiatus, an unusual pause partly due to contract negotiations with A&E. During that time, Brandy and Jarrod were privately separated while the public still believed they were together. Social media muddied the picture further, with occasional posts that could be interpreted in multiple directions, the absence of information functioning as a kind of passive confirmation that nothing had changed. When Storage Wars returned for Season 13 in April 2021, Brandy and Jarrod both appeared on camera at the same auctions, but the energy between them had changed in ways that attentive viewers noticed immediately. They bid independently. They interacted only when the production required it. The show that had built its most popular dynamic around their friction and familiarity now featured 2 people who were being professionally civil toward each other and little more. On the April 20th, 2021 premiere episode, Brandy said it out loud for the first time on camera. She was not with Jarrod anymore. She mentioned they had broken up after Season 12. She did not go into detail. She did not provide the timeline that would have explained why they had been filming together for an entire new season while separated, why no one at A&E had informed the audience, or what the relationship had actually looked like in those final years. What she also did not say on that episode was that 10 days after the premiere aired, something happened at a bar in Orange County that the Orange County District Attorney's Office would subsequently treat as a criminal matter. The October Post that said everything without naming anyone. On April 30th, 2021, Brandy was at a bar in Lake Forest, California, with a group of friends. According to law enforcement sources, Jarrod Schulz arrived at the same bar. The 2 got into a heated exchange. Brandy told him to leave, but he did not leave, and things escalated. Jarrod allegedly pushed Brandy twice while yelling at her and her group. Police were called. By the time officers arrived, Jarrod had left. A police report was taken, and when Jarrod subsequently spoke to the police, he denied making any physical contact with Brandy. In May 2021, the Orange County District Attorney's Office confirmed that Jarrod Schulz had been charged with 1 count of misdemeanor domestic violence battery. The victim in the complaint was identified as Jane Doe, with whom he had previously been in a relationship. The identity of Jane Doe was not publicly confirmed by the DA's office, but was understood by everyone following the case. A&E immediately launched an investigation into Jarrod's future on the show. with industry sources describing his role as in limbo, while the network's review was underway. Jarrod's attorney told TMZ that his client denied making contact with Brandy and had no interest in taking any plea deal unless it resulted in the complete dismissal of the charges. He pleaded not guilty. The case was scheduled for trial. The proceedings continued through 2022 and 2023, creating ongoing legal uncertainty that coincided with Jarrod's disappearance from the show. Brandy did not give a formal statement about the charges or sit for an interview. What she did instead was post to Instagram in October 2021, National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, with a message that read, "Domestic violence does not discriminate by race, gender, economic status, or social status." She posted the message without elaborating on her own situation or naming Jarrod. She did not need to. The timing, the content, and the context made the meaning legible to anyone who had been paying attention. That October post was more powerful than any press release could have been. It said what she had experienced while simultaneously making the message about every person in a similar situation, transforming her own specific pain into advocacy for something larger. She had been through something that qualified as domestic violence. Rather than making it primarily about her, she pointed it outward. That instinct to absorb the specific and turn it toward the general had been visible in how she handled the lawsuit too. The $37. The October post. Two different forms of indignity, handled the same way. Take the hit, and then use whatever leverage remains to say something worth saying. But the April 2021 confrontation was not the first time Jarrod had been in legal trouble that directly involved or affected Brandy. And understanding the full picture of what she had been living alongside requires understanding the trail of incidents that preceded the domestic violence charge. The legal trail that was built before anyone was paying attention. The April 2021 bar incident did not arrive without precursors. In July 2019, Jarrod had been charged with resisting an officer following an incident in Lake Forest, California. The charge, resisting arrest during a law enforcement interaction, is the kind of legal trouble that generates a news item and then largely disappears from public awareness, particularly when the person involved is a reality television personality whose show handles its own narrative. What it generated for Brandy was something entirely different. She shared 2 children with this man. She shared a business with him. She had built the public-facing identity of the young guns with him. Every legal issue he created, every interaction with law enforcement, every charge, every court date existed inside the world she was also living in, and its consequences were not contained to him. She had also been arrested herself in 2007 in a separate and unrelated incident, years before the show existed, in circumstances that Brandy has not discussed publicly in detail. The record exists. What it demonstrates, combined with everything else in her history before the show found her, is that the early years of her adult life in Orange County were not easy, and that she had navigated significant personal and legal turbulence long before she became anyone the public recognized. Jarrod's 2019 resisting arrest charge, combined with the 2021 domestic violence charge, created a pattern that the show's absence from air during the 2018 to 2021 hiatus had obscured from public view. The domestic violence charge was not a sudden eruption. It was the most publicly visible point in a line that had been drawing itself for years. And Brandy had been living alongside that line the entire time, managing its consequences and its complications, while simultaneously filming storage wars and raising children and running a business and managing a chronic illness. That context is what makes her description of those years, that she wasn't really allowed to have an identity, so specific and so precise. What was that about? What she said about identity. In February 2021, 2 months before the bar incident, Brandy appeared on a Spirit Talk YouTube show and said something that received far less coverage than it deserved. She said she had not really been allowed to have an identity for many, many years, and that the time since the split was about coming into her own and figuring out who she was. She said she just did not have an attachment to anyone. She was not sad about it, but was relieved. In the Storage Wars narrative, Jarrod was always the primary force. His decisions, his bids, his schemes, his personality. Brandy was the counterpoint, the eye roller, the reality check, the one whose role was defined by its relationship to his. She was the person who responded to him, rarely the person being responded to. Off-screen, in the actual household, in the actual relationship, the dynamic appears to have worked the same way, only without the cameras to make the imbalance entertaining. He was the center. She organized herself around that center. The children were largely her responsibility. The business decisions were largely his. The public persona of the young guns belonged to both of them, but was anchored in his personality and his choices. Losing that structure required starting over in the most basic sense. Who was she when she was not responding to him? What did she want when his wants were not the gravitational force in the room? The woman on Season 16. Brandy returned to Storage Wars as a solo buyer in Season 13 and stayed through Season 16 in 2025. The version of her that appeared on screen in those seasons was noticeably different from the one that had been on screen for 12 seasons as the other half of the Young Guns. She bid with her own money, guided by her own judgment. She made her own calls. She won units without consulting anyone. In a promo for Season 16, she described her auction strategy as sometimes using a little misdirection with the other bidders. A woman who had spent years navigating a relationship that had not been honest with her had developed a facility for reading other people's tells and concealing her own. She had turned that particular kind of hard-won awareness into a professional skill. She launched a podcast in 2025 titled The Real Reality with Brandi Passante. The title is a statement in itself. After years of being one half of a constructed television narrative, after years of the show's editing determining which version of her life the audience received, she was building her own platform specifically to give people the version the cameras had always left out. In a June 2025 Instagram video promoting the podcast's upcoming episodes, she captioned it with a phrase that functioned as both a promise and a warning. Things were about to get real. She also took care of her physical health in ways that became publicly visible post-split, posting in December 2024 in noticeably better shape than she had appeared in during the later seasons of Storage Wars. Managing Hashimoto's disease is easier when the stressors driving its flare-ups are reduced. 20 years of a relationship that consumed her identity and generated ongoing legal, personal, and professional turbulence is a significant stressor. Its removal, by her own deliberate choice, produced visible results. In May 2023, she went public with Clifford Beaver, a realtor who celebrated her birthday with an Instagram post full of photographs and genuine warmth. A year later, Clifford posted again on her birthday, describing her as a blessing to him and his entire family, someone who had shown nothing but unconditional love for him and those he cared about. That last word carries particular weight, given the words that had circulated around Jarrod's new relationship. When Rachel Beckman publicly announced she was in a relationship with Jarrod, she wrote that it was crazy how much happier life could be when you were appreciated and cared for the way a person should be. Both the woman who left him and the woman he went to next used variations of the same word, to describe what they had found in relationships outside of his. So, does that mean Jarrod is in a better place after everything that happened? Where Jarrod is now, and what his silence tells you. Jarrod Schulz's last known Instagram post was in May 2022, in which he appeared with Rochelle Beckman. He has not appeared in a Storage Wars season since the domestic violence charge was filed. A&E's investigation into his role produced a conclusion that was never formally announced, but is evident in the result. He simply did not return to a show that had featured him for 12 consecutive seasons. No farewell episode, no explanation, just absence. The contrast between the two trajectories since 2021 is the clearest possible summary of the story. Brandi Passante is on season 16. She has a podcast. She has a relationship she has described publicly with warmth and without qualification. She has been noticeably physically healthier. She has been building and expanding her public presence in ways that exist entirely outside of him. Jarrod's social media presence ended in 2022. His professional presence on the show that made him famous ended sometime in 2021. The woman's return to the auction floor was supposed to be impossible without the one still there, still bidding, still the most recognizable face on the program. The 4 words she said on the April 2021 premiere, "I'm not with Jarrod anymore," turned out to be the beginning of a story, rather than its conclusion. Is Brandi Passante's public reinvention after Jarrod Schulz's true recovery? Or is it just the first time she has ever been able to tell her own story on her own terms? What does it reveal about reality television that one of Storage Wars' most recognizable couples was hiding a breakup, a domestic violence incident, a chronic illness, a lawsuit, and an identity struggle while audiences only saw arguments over storage lockers? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.